Hello, Davey here, and welcome to my Cooler Master Summer Summit 2021 coverage, part 2. I'm going to be bringing up a third video afterwards. My first was on cases and coolers. You can check that on the card over there. And yeah, the next one's going to be about all the rest of the stuff I haven't covered. So it's going to be chairs, desks, they have a monitor, they have this weird cockpit thing, that kind of stuff. But this one is about peripherals and power supply units. So we're going through keyboards, mice, and the power supply units, and you can skip to anyone you like with the chapters or timestamps in the video description. So on the previous takes I've done of this, it's taking me like 25 minutes to cover this, so I'm gonna try and keep this a lot tighter than my previous takes and get it down to 15 minutes. And it's already a minute in, so let's get started. So first up is the CK351. Now, one thing I'll say going into this is that I think whereas with the cases, there are some of them I don't think were particularly amazing products generally overall, and there are better ones out there. I think in this case with the peripherals and power supply units, I think there's something in here for everyone, and each of these are actually quite competitive in their own respects. So let's start off with the CK351, 331, 351, 351. Right, so this one is a brushed aluminium top plate keyboard. And it's a pretty standard layout, but the big feature on this is the IP resistance, IP58 resistance. I think it's the water is 5 and the dust is 8, I believe. But anyway, either way, they're both high ratings, and it's a feature that lots of people would be interested in, and it's going to be in a sort of unique end of the market, a more closed off end of the market. So if you're interested in water resistance and dust resistance, then this is a really big contender, I think, and it's quite a sleek and stylish one. So let's get on to the other features it has then. So it's rated for 100 million plus click lifespan with the LK Dargo series optical switches, red, blue, or brown. Dargo, it's LK Dargo. It's doesn't roll off the tongue nice. Darglow might make more sense because it's RGB, and since they're RGB, they have perky illumination, or they are RGB and they have perky illumination, which you can tune with the Master Plus software, I believe. You've got Master Plus support, and I'm not sure if there are two versions of Master Plus, if there's Master Plus or Master Plus Plus, because they show in here in certain places Master Plus and then have a plus next to it. Very confusing. Anyway, full end key rollover, so great for gamers, so you're not sort of blocking, like ghosting over certain commands, and you've got the dust resistance and water resistance. I think that's pretty much the main features. 100 Hz polling rate, 1 millisecond response time, which is pretty much the same for all the keyboards, so I'm not going to go over about that. There's a distinction on the keycaps in terms of their materials and the engraving. So in parts of Asia, or part of Asia and the US layouts, you've got ABS double injection keycaps, and in other areas or other areas of the world regions, so probably UK, EU, that kind of those kind of places, it's ABS painting and laser engraved keycaps. I don't quite know what they mean by ABS painting. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, who knows? Anyway, that's pretty much all there is to say about this. You get a 1.8 meter cable, and it's 904 grams, and you get a 2-year warranty. So moving on to the CK352. Now, the sort of more unique feature about this, I think, is not necessarily unique, but it's the stylish one of, personally, at least it speaks to me in that way. It's the more stylish one. It has both that sleek design to it, but also some sort of gamer sort of hints and accents to it, but you could easily make the RGB accents down the side and through the backlighting of the keyboard nice and sort of one-tone, monotone, probably purple because it is the best lighting color after all. Not because Cooler Master, it's just personally my preference. But anyway, let's get into some of the details of this. So the key switches for this, they're not the optical LK Dargo, they're the mechanical LC switches. You get red, blue, and brown. For each of the 3 keyboards they're showing, they have different switches. It's kind of weird. Same per key illumination as previous. You've got the LED light bars down the side and around the back and that kind of stuff. That can all be programmed with the Master Plus software, I think. They haven't named it here, but I would be so surprised if it couldn't be. You've got dual keycap colors, so some of them are grey, dark grey, some of them are black. That personally speaks to me in terms of its design, its aesthetics. I hate using the word aesthetics because it's just, but yeah, anyway, its design, it speaks to me personally. It's aluminium body. It looks like the top and bottom are both aluminium, comprised of aluminium plates or aluminium plate, I guess. Anyway, there's again the same distinction in terms of materials for the keycaps as the previous, same polling rates and response times. The cable, it's a PVC cable, so it's not your nice braided one. It's 1.8 meters long. The keyboard weighs 904 grams and it has a 2-year warranty. You've also got the number pad on the side, which again, for me, perfect because I work more than I game. Not that you care. Moving on to the CK721. This one is the wireless funky one of the bunch. So you've got wireless functionality and you can also go wired. So you can go Type-C wired, so Type-C to Type-A cable they include. I believe that's braided. Yeah, it's detachable and it's braided. You've got 2.4 gigahertz wireless and Bluetooth 5.1. There's a switch on the side to switch between the 3 different options. And I believe that you can actually connect this to several devices at the same time and switch between them with that, which frankly is great. It's a really good feature, and you can connect this to iOS and Android devices. So to your phone or tablet, you can connect this and use it for the keyboard on that. And that's great because this is going to be one of the few keyboards that you probably can connect to one of those things which has like nice switches and stuff. Speaking of switches, they're TTC mechanical switches, not LK Dargo optical switches, and not LC switches. Blue, red, or brown are your options, which will be, some sort of comparison to the MX cherries, which are the sort of classic ones. You've got a dial to the top right, which is quite cool. You can customize that. It goes clockwise. It also goes counterclockwise. Well, I guess that's to you, counterclockwise. And you can also press it in, and you can program that to do what you like. So yeah, that's a really cool little side feature. There's also a button to the bottom right, or the bottom right shift, that has an alternate function which can switch between Mac and Windows. So I'm not sure 100% if that ties into the Bluetooth side of things, like the wireless side of things, or if that's sort of a side thing and it's to switch maybe between like Boot Camp and Mac OS stuff and the commands will be slightly different. Maybe that's something to be delved into in the reviews, or maybe they'll show that in the showcase, in the keynote that they're bringing out on Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday. Now things are getting a bit funky; they're changing all over the place. But anyway, hopefully they bring more information on that. In terms of like the layout, it's a 65% layout, and you get a wrist rest, which is cloth. And I'm kind of hoping that wrist rest can magnetically clip to the back of it. That would be really cool if it could. It has some sort of connection to it magnetically. It'd be nice. I doubt it will, but it would be nice to have. In terms of rollover, you've got 6-key rollover in Bluetooth mode, so you've got a maximum of 6 keys you can press before you start like ghosting, I think they call it. I think it's called, where you can't click any more buttons than that. And in wired and 2.4 gigahertz mode, it's N key. So N, I guess, stands for unlimited amount of keys that you can press. The nth N keys. The scientific or mathematical term? I don't know. Anyway, there's also some other things. So the polling rate for wired and 2.4 gigahertz is 1000 hertz, and for Bluetooth it's 125 hertz, and the response time for wired and 2.4 gigahertz is 1 millisecond, and for Bluetooth it's 8 milliseconds. So you're not going to be using that for gaming, but maybe the work computer you've got on the side, put a little Bluetooth dongle in there, connect it up, and you've got your gaming thing on the side, and you can switch between the two flawlessly at the end of the day, nice and easy. It seems like a really cool idea to me. Battery is a 2000 milliamp hour battery, and you can wire charge it. I wonder if you can plug it into the wall to charge it, because that's quite a big battery to just charge, from nothing. So it would take a long time through, USB via your computer. So let's hope there's that option. It's compatible with Windows 8 and onwards, Mac OS, Android, iOS, and yeah, 1.8 meter braided detachable cable. It's 764 grams, and you get a 2-year warranty. So I think that's pretty much everything to say about that. Now we can move on to the mice. We'll start off with the MM730 and then move on to the 731. Now, they both have kind of a similar goal, and that's being as lightweight as they can, or just being very lightweight. They could obviously reduce the weight by compromising things, but they specifically said that this wide version, the 730, they've made it as light as possible, 48 grams, without having to resort to doing things like, putting holes in the body of the mouse, which to me kind of makes sense because, it's 26 degrees in here now. I'm sweating, and frankly, that's just only going to attract piles of rubbish and crap into your thing, and definitely when you're doing the stress, like high sensitivity, hardcore gaming stuff, you're gonna get sweaty palms, probably most people, and that's just gonna build up and crud up the holes and stuff out of the honeycomb shaped bodies that we've seen in other mice. So I can appreciate that as a good feature. They've got some marketing fluff in here like classic gaming mouse shape optimized for right-handed gamers. If you're a right-handed human and not a gamer, then it's not optimized for you. And it's the mouse design. It just seems like a classic mouse design rather than a gaming mouse design. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely out of touch here, or maybe I'm overblowing the point, but just it would be nice to dial the marketing fluff down just a touch. It has a gaming grade sensor. It's the PixArt optical sensor. I've heard of that sensor before, and from memory it seems like a strong sensor. There is a website you can check out to see what sensors like true sensors, where they have very good sort of replication from movement to there's something about that. I'm not an expert in this stuff, so if you're not either, go and source that website. I'll try and find a link for it and put it in the description if I can find it, if I can remember it. But yeah, it has 16,000 dpi sensitivity, which I don't know about you, but I'm again not a high sensitivity gamer. Is that good? I mean, after a few thousand, doesn't it just become kind of like pointless at that point? Do you ramp the sensitivity up on the mouse and lower it in the OS or something like that? Is that how that works? I don't know. Let me know if you know. They're optical switches. They're all the switches. I'm not sure all the switches are, but it just says generally 70 million clicks, and they're optical, so they're potentially good. RGB illuminated. I think you can control that via the Master Plus software. There's a plus behind the plus on this one, so Master Plus. Who knows? The feet are PTFE, so they're extra low frictions, which should be good for your quick mouse movements in games and stuff like that. And apart from that, I think that covers pretty much everything. In terms of like the polling rates and stuff, you can go up to 1,000 hertz, and yeah, I think that really covers it. They're saying that they've got a cable that's it's a Type C to Type A. Does that mean you can disconnect it? I don't know. They haven't put any information on that. But anyway, it's 48 grams. That's the main killer point, and they've got a 2-year warranty. Now, the next mouse is the 731. Now, this is basically the wireless version of the previous, so I won't go over the same stuff that was in the previous if it's the same in this one, which is pretty much everything to do with the optical switches and the sensor. Only this one has a 19,000 dpi sensor, PixArt optical sensor. The other one was 16,000. Bit weird. There's no change to the design, the RGB stuff, the mouse feet, all that is the same. But the wireless is obviously different. Now you can plug this in wired and you get certain benefits to that, and you can do 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth 5.1. Now there is a compromise to this, and that is some performance if you're going for Bluetooth, but also weight. So the last mouse was 11 grams lighter at 48 grams. This one is 59 grams, so a little bit more on the weight there. Now in the department of performance, in terms of polling rates, for 2.4 gigahertz and wired, it's 1,000 hertz polling rate. For Bluetooth, it's 125. So there's a big drop off there in the performance there. And in terms of the battery life, is a huge difference. So it's a 500 milliamp hour battery, 72 hours on Bluetooth, but 190 on 2.4 gigahertz wireless, which is just a huge difference between the two. And I also think there's a difference in the response times, but I can't find anything here talking about the response times for this mouse regarding Bluetooth and that kind of thing. So we'll have to see if any of those details come out, but to be honest, Bluetooth isn't like a super gamer thing anyway, and it's not for high sensitivity stuff, so it's not going to be something you're going to want to focus on realistically. You get a detachable braided cable, Type C to Type A, 1.8 meters, and you get a 2-year warranty, so that covers that. Now, let's cover the power supply units. First off are the H-series power supply units. So they go from 550 watts up to 850 watts in 100 watt increments. There's a few interesting details on this. I think generally this is kind of like a sort of stylish power supply unit, but there are some functionality in regards to smartness, I guess. So there's a USB 3.0 wire connection to your motherboard, so you can customize things like the fan curve and that kind of thing. Now, I really would have liked if they didn't do 3.0, because that connector is bulky. If they could make it 2.0, that would be much appreciated, because I'm pretty sure going into the future and now everyone's got like a spare USB internal 2.0 connector and not a 3.0 one. So it would be nice if that was a 2.0 just for convenience sake. You get a 135mm fan, it's 80 plus gold efficiency or certified efficiency, fully modular, and you get a 10-year warranty, which is great. The unit is 160mm deep, and the fan spins up to 2200 RPM. I think that pretty much covers everything there. So let's move on to the M1600. Now this one, in terms of its special feature, is just the mass of wattage you get. There's just huge amounts of support here for loads of different components, like loads of graphics cards, massive CPUs, even mining if you really wanted to go down that road nowadays. I'm not sure it's worth it these days. Maybe that fluctuates and changes. But anyway, it's 80 plus platinum certified, 135mm fan, fully modular cables, high-end capacitors, Japanese capacitors. I don't think that's as relevant today as it was before. I know quite a while back there was an issue with capacitors being produced in other countries, and the Japanese ones were the solid ones to go for. I don't think that's the case these days, but I think it's still being marketed that way. You get a 7-year warranty with this one, and I asked why not 10, but I think on the next power supply unit there's an answer to that, and we'll explain it in a second. So 180mm deep, 80 plus platinum, 2400 RPM fan speed, so slightly different fan to the previous, I guess. So that's all that covered. Now that was the M1600 Platinum. Let's move on to the M2000 Platinum. This thing, it's a step up now. So this is pretty much all the same as the previous. There's not really much anything different from the previous to this one, minus the wattage. Now, what they have put down as a point here is competitive pricing. Now, we have no pricing for this, but what they're saying is there are no unnecessary features for this. They've just gone for the best price for maximum wattage, which this could be a really, really good contender, maybe for miners, not like children, people trying to mine cryptocurrencies, and for, I don't know, people making massive builds, like huge power drawing builds, just an option to bring the price down. However, there's something that does concern me about this, and maybe something that might brought the price down a bit too far, is that they say that the 135mm fluid dynamic bearing fan keeps the unit cool with a constant speed of 2400 RPM. Now, if that 2400 RPM is just continuous and it doesn't change, that might be an issue. So maybe something to check out reviews for, get some clarification from Cooler Master if you really want it and you can't wait for a review, something like that. But yeah, so 2400 RPM, 135mm fan, that will be loud. Now moving on to the V1100 SFX Platinum. Got another massive wattage power supply in it, but this one is an SFX power supply in it, and that is just off the walls nuts. It comes with an SFX280X bracket, 80 plus platinum certified, 92mm fan, fully modular cabling, and a 10-year warranty. Now this thing is just off the walls nuts. So yeah, 100mm deep SFX. But let's move on to the next off the walls nuts one, which is the V1300 SFX-L. Now it's got everything else the previous one had, but this one is saying it's 100mm deep. I think they've got something messed up in the specifications there. Typically, SFX-Ls are 130mm deep, and they're just the longer version, and generally you put in a larger fan for the extra length, but they haven't changed the fan. I'm skeptical about this. I have a feeling it might be like a 120mm fan. It looks slightly larger than the previous, so hold off a little bit on those details to get clarified. But yeah, if you really want all the details of all the minute changes and stuff for the power supply units, I recommend checking out the specifications. I'm not the person to tell you whether they're good or bad. I'm not a power supply unit expert. Few people are. Last two power supply units up now, the XG850. There's also a 650 and 750 watt version. They're all platinum, so XG850 Platinum is the full name. This is apparently the first in-house Cooler Master designed power supply unit platform built for high-end performance with reduced temperature requirements. So maybe these are really high-end ones with big components that don't require much in terms of cooling. And that does seem to be indicative here, because the fan won't spin up until it has reached at least 50% load. So yeah, just a really high-end, high-quality power supply unit at reasonable wattages, which will probably be quite expensive, all things considered. You get a 10-year warranty with this one, which is great. It's 150 millimeters deep, which is shorter than average. So the other general power supply units, they were looking like 160, so the H series, and then the M series is 180. Now this is 150, which is really quite shallow, to be fair, for a power supply unit. Fan size 135 mil, and it's 1800 RPM fan, which again doesn't spin up till 50% load. Now onto the last power supply unit, and the last thing I'm covering in this section of power supply units and peripherals, the XG850 Plus Platinum. It's the Plus version, I guess, of the previous one, but there are a few things about this that is different to the previous one. First, it's the RGB effects. Off the wall RGB effects, big ARGB fan, and you've also got an information display panel which you can show your temperature, fan speed, and power consumption. I'd like to see that in a video, just to see what it looks like, and you know, the effects and that kind of thing. It'd be really cool to see. But yeah, this really is for those who just need that in their life, or maybe the flexers who just need the biggest and the best and the brightest of everything. Could be cool actually for some sort of underglow on your case, on your system. Anyway, 10-year warranty, 135mm fan, up to 1800 RPM. Looks pretty off the wall. That is just the major feature of this one, I guess. It's just a bit off the wall, but you can get it down to 650 watts. So maybe affordable. We'll have to see when it comes out, and maybe if the keynote shows any information regarding that. So there we have it. That is my coverage of the peripherals and power supply units from the Cooler Master Summer Summit. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'm going to be coming up with the next one, which will be the chairs, desks, some monitor stuff, the cockpit, other things. There's some other crazy streaming stuff, that sort of stuff. I know I've been talking really quick in this, but to get through all that information in like a reasonable time, it does either take a big compromise in the amount of stuff you say, how long it goes on for, or how quickly you talk to bring it down. And I think I might have been able to get it around 20 minutes, which for me, on AV Techie, is pretty good. I need to give up on making short videos. Like, it just doesn't work. So maybe I just need to laser focus on being the channel for all the information and skipping none of it, regardless of how irrelevant it may or may not be. So thanks for checking this one out. I'm going to turn the fan on. 27, it's rising. I'll catch you in the next one. Hope you enjoy this one. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.